I'm here in Portugal to ride the 2026 Honda Transalp. There's been a few subtle tweaks to this model year, but the biggest change is that this now comes with the E-clutch. Essentially what happens with the E-clutch is you don't need to use that clutch lever. So it's like having a quick shifter, but you don't need the clutch to pull away or when you come to a stop. Now there's a lot of clever tech that goes on behind that, so let's just take a quick look at how that system actually works.
I'll try and keep this brief and not get too technical, but essentially there's a bolt-on which includes two actuator motors and a rotation angle sensor. This is all contained in a small housing that you can see on the right hand side. On the 750 models, they've been able to move that slightly forward compared to the 650, and it only adds 2 kilos compared to a standard manual gearbox. Turn the key in the ignition and the system recognises neutral and opens up the clutch plates. When you then start the engine, you can engage first gear with a shift pedal without touching the clutch, and it delivers a smooth controlled pull away. When you're upshifting, again based on all those readings, the fuel injection controls the ignition timing and fuel quantity to manage the release of the current gear, just like using a quick shifter, and the motor control unit instigates a half clutch opening state, so it's kind of like a little assist clutch, and that reduces shift shock when engaging the target gear. On the downshift, the system operates the clutch normally to release the current gear, and you get an auto blip to match the RPM with the next gear, and again the MCU will instigate a half clutch opening state to reduce that shift shock on the downshifts.
What that means in reality is I am riding this bike sans clutch lever. I'm changing as I would do with a normal quick shifter, but the system has a lot of advantages over a standard quick shifter. It's much smoother, and Honda gave us some charts to show the difference between a manual bike and a bike with a quick shifter and the E-clutch system. So with a manual bike, when you disengage the clutch using the lever, your power is disengaged for a reasonable amount of time. With a quick shifter, obviously you're not using the clutch to make those changes, so that whole event is sped up. When it comes to the E-clutch, because of the clever trickery that goes on, that gap when you've not got any drive is even shorter, and because it utilizes that half clutch, sort of a slipper clutch if you like, it means that you don't get the shift shock, which makes the whole thing smoother, and it is fantastic. It really does work. It makes a huge difference. It is like the best quick shifter you'll ever use. It's just seamless, and of course you get the best of both worlds. So you can ride it in E-clutch mode where it's doing all of that stuff for you, or you can switch it down into manual mode and you have complete control. You're just using the clutch as per normal. But if you're in the auto mode, you can also override it using the clutch, and it'll leave the system disengaged for a set amount of time depending on your speed. So if you're going fast, if you're traveling at the sort of speeds that we are now, what it will do is switch back to the E-clutch system within a second or so. But if you're kind of going slow, maneuvering the bike around in a car park or something, then it will leave the E-clutch system off for a longer period of time, maybe 5 seconds. So you can have it either off completely, just ride it like a normal bike. You can have it in E-clutch mode, don't touch that at all, or you can do a hybrid between the two, and the system works very well. Now, one thing about the E-clutch that you may be asking is, can you stall the bike? And yes, you can, but only if you mess around touching the clutch lever. So if you just ride as I've been riding, not using that to pull away to stop, if you come to a junction and you're in the wrong gear and you get the flashing light warning you, it will just not stall. It will continue to run. It will stay in that gear. If you put gas on, it will try to pull away and chug, and obviously you'll then just change gear. However, if you do pull the clutch in, obviously you've then switched the E-clutch system off. So for those brief few seconds where you haven't got the system assisting you, you can stall the bike. And that's one of the ways it comes in super handy off-road, is that you can up and down the gearbox, but if you get that wrong or get yourself in a bit of a position, so long as you don't touch that clutch lever, it won't stall. So slowing down, if I try to slow down too much, yeah, there you see, I was flashing to say no, you can't do that. But notice I'm not touching the clutch at all. Not touched it. No need to touch it. So we get to test the e-clutch off-road, and apparently it makes for a really good experience. I'm going to have to nanny it through here because I'm still struggling a bit with my wrist after my Africa Twin crash. Standing up and doing this is a little bit painful, and luckily it stopped raining because I think some of these rocks might be a little bit slippy. So off-road, the e-clutch really does come into its own. You don't have to worry about feathering the clutch, and if you're being a little bit more aggressive and stamping on the rear brake and sliding the back out, then you've just got to kick the bike into gear. You don't have to worry about it stalling if you're not in the right gear. So actually, I think for newer riders is helpful, but it's also really good for experienced riders because they can really take some liberties. Now we've got a little water splash here. But it's a beautiful bit of countryside, and the sun is out, and the e-clutch is fantastic. Now, getting away from the e-clutch a little bit, let's talk about some of the other changes on the bike. The Transalp has got a tweak to the frame. It's 125mm longer, 48mm wider, and there's a little bit more of an increase in tensile strength, but the weight has also been reduced. And those changes make the bike feel a little bit more responsive. It retains its predictable handling, but combined with the changes to the suspension, I think Honda have completely transformed the riding experience. When the XL750 Transalp was relaunched, one of the complaints that came back was that the suspension was too soft, and I concurred with that view when I rode it. It did offer plenty of comfort, but it could get a little bit wallowy. That's completely changed now. We've got new Showa 43mm separate function forks up front, 200mm of stroke travel, and we've got a Showa monoshock on the rear with the ProLink system. That's got 190mm of actual travel. So we've got a fully adjustable suspension, and that has completely transformed this bike, I think. You still have that lovely neutral handling both on and off road. The suspension now feels much tauter. I think it's made a huge difference to this bike. Now, although this section of off-road isn't particularly technical, there are some quite rocky sections, and this bike has just floated over the top of them. Still nice and supple, but you can feel how much tauter that damping is and how much more control you feel like you've got over the bike. Even on some of the slightly rougher sections, the bike still feels very composed and very controllable. Honda really have made a noticeable difference. And on the twisties on the tarmac, you can really hustle this bike along. It's an absolutely different beast to what it was before, and I was really surprised by that. It's been a while since I've ridden the Transalp, and I've forgotten just how well this 750 engine suits it. It's punchy, it's revvy, but it's nice and balanced at low speed. Perfect for this kind of bike. Honda have reworked the intake, and the Vortex airflow ducts let the airflow in faster, which apparently optimises throttle response and top end power. That all seems pretty evident when you ride the bike. There's some nice induction roar and a pretty fruity stock exhaust. Given that this is a chassis that I spoke about earlier and that new suspension, this thing is an absolute blast in the twisties. There are, as ever, a host of accessory packs available. This bike is kitted with one. Lots of new ones for this year. The one thing that I've always loved about this bike is just how comfortable it is. It's a lovely riding position, really comfortable seat. Arguably, I found this on long days a little bit more comfortable than the Africa Twin. It does everything really, really well. And for adventuring where you're largely tarmac based with some easy off-road, this is a really good choice. One thing I've noticed is these little deflectors are really effective. Just pushing that extra little bit of wind around. When it was raining, it was keeping me relatively dry, despite the fact that we've only got, you know, quite a short screen. The deflectors, I think, are definitely worth an investment on the accessory page. Oh, it does sound good. The more I ride this, the more I like it. I can definitely see one of these replacing the Africa Twin. As much as I love the Africa Twin, this is a lot of fun, and you know, I'm not getting any younger, so having a slightly lighter bike, well, considerably lighter bike, make a real difference. What a road as well.
So what is all of this extra kit going to cost you? Well, the 2025 Transalp was £9,899. The 2026 with the E-clutch, adjustable suspension, and all the other tweaks is just £100 more at £9,999. That feels like an absolute bargain to me and makes this a standout in the middleweight adventure market. The E-clutch system is truly fantastic and the ride quality is so much better. I think this is a vast improvement over the previous model, and at £10,000 I don't think you can go wrong. I'm really looking forward to getting to ride this a lot more in the future. So hopefully I've given you a flavour of what the E-clutch is all about, and obviously we've touched on the changes to the bike. If you've got any questions at all, then let me know in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.